I can't let you go. There's no way. I'm already still burning. So hold to me close. Now, baby, I do what I'm told. Still learning to take my chances, to take my time, to keep on dancing, to walk that line. Yeah, you got me shifting the paradigm. No longer wishing. You're my lucky strike. Love the way you ride. Look into my eyes, say you're ready to go. $1 million life, yeah. We could roll the dice. Act like you're surprised, but you already know. Oh yeah, got lucky overnight. Jackpot when I got the invite. Let me wrap my arms around you, cause I can't go home without you. And my heart just vibe with you, babe. Wanna go sky high with you, babe. Gotta bring you close to tell you that you're my lucky strike. And I got to tell you, if you didn't know, then I got to tell you that you're my lucky strike. And I got to tell you, if you didn't know, then I got to tell you that you're my lucky strike. Cooler than cold, I'm all in. So load up the dice, so heavy. The way that you roll, I'm falling. So I never fall. I'm ready to take my chances, to take my time.
Did you share your audio?
I'm going. Here we go. All right. Well, welcome everyone. I'm Chris Jones. As you can tell by me not hitting all those audio cues, I am just taking over for Jim Reed tonight. But trying to do both the production and the hosting, so getting those things right in the right place. Thank you for joining us. This is the REC.POKER podcast. As always, we are sponsored by Running Aces Hotel, Racetrack, and Casino and website AMP, our good friend Mark Prashon. And as always, it takes more than just a host to pull this all together. So I am Chris Jones. You can find me 5B5 on the Poker Stars home game and on 5B5 on Twitter. But it takes more than me. So just here, you can open up your ear holes and listen to who else is on the panel tonight.
I am John Somsky, and I am Poker Geek MN everywhere.
I'm Kim Kilroy. I am PetVet_33 most places, and I'm Fergie56 on the home game.
I'm Rob Washam, and I'm Rabman50 just about everywhere.
And I'm noticing Keith Monkey System Brandt is just about to join us as well. So he'll be joining us on the air as well. Not quite here yet, but about to join us. So, you know, most weeks we have some guests in the poker world, but this week we've got kind of a really special episode. We are welcoming 2 new Wrecking Crew members to the Wrecking Crew, and they are joining us as our guests tonight. Ben Enslow and Troy Chapman have joined the Wrecking Crew, and we're so excited to have you. Welcome, Ben and Troy.
Thanks, Chris.
Hi, guys.
So, you know, I think one of the things I wanted to start us sort of this conversation talking about was a little bit about, we'll get to what brought you to the Wrecking Crew in the first place, but let's talk about each of your sort of poker backgrounds, your poker journeys. What brought you to poker in the first place?
I'll let Ben start if you like.
Oh, okay, sure. For me, it was the Mike Sexton broadcasts from the WPT, the old school stuff, way back. I remember seeing it way late at night Just happened to be on TV when I was a teenager. And I remember Doyle, and they kept going on about Phil Ivey being like this young phenom superstar, just coming on the scene and whatever. So I think that was the first place I ever seen poker, and seeing Doyle, this old timer with the hat, and like he just like it's like this is like awesome. Like, how do I figure out more about this, right? So yeah, that was I think that was the first time I ever seen it. So
Yeah.
I don't know about Troy.
Those Mike Sexton. I think Mike Sexton brought a lot of people to the game of poker.
His voice too, and his voice and him with Vince Van Patten, like they made such a great combo. And I think also like him and was it Dunst? Tony Dunst, I believe, is that who the new co-host is? He's really good too, and I think they've matched up really, really well. So yeah, it's good to see that next generation kind of move forward.
Right. How about you, Troy?
So my introduction to poker was, I'm going to say 12 or 15 years ago when stuff was being broadcast down here in Australia. Everyone hopefully by now has picked up on the accent. The world of poker for me, probably at the time, was probably Dean Eggs. And then they started the local, I think in America, they do a lot of what they call bar leagues. It's basically the same here. So these are local poker games that are being run at the local club. At the time, it was like for a $2 buy-in, and you won $50 to spend at the club if you won the night. So that was my initial introduction to poker. I took a little bit of time off with life getting in the way. And then about 5 years ago, after becoming an ex-athlete and all kinds of things, I decided that it was time to get back into it. So, and I don't do many things by halves. So it's now a absolute passion that is just being driven in so many different ways.
Great. So, you both bring a lot of different things to the table, sort of different interests and backgrounds, but I'm curious about your sort of leap into joining the Wrecking Crew. What was it about it that drew you to it in the first place, and what are sort of some of your goals and hopes and ambitions with kind of jumping into this part of REC.POKER?
So I'll start first. So my introduction, or my willingness to get involved, was after a conversation with Jim. And it's about trying to actually introduce the world of REC.POKER to Australia. So there are only a handful of different people down here in Australia that are members or active in any way, shape or form with REC.POKER. And the target market that we have really coincides well with a lot of the level of poker and the level of player ability and keenness and interest that is associated with poker. There's just a huge part in the marketplace here where I believe that a lot of people can take some real value out of what we offer. So personally, I loved, and I've been a regular with Rob Washam over the years, doing various books through the book study, and really the book study allowed me to actually meet Chris Wallace, and I've been coached by him over time now. And these are opportunities that you just can't get in Australia. Very, very difficult to do so. And also, I suppose, where in Australia, it's very difficult to find enough people who have the same interest at the same level that you are. This basically is a ready-made population of people who everyone is as keen as mustard about their poker, and you can feed off everyone's keenness about and willingness to learn.
I gotta say, I love an Aussie saying more than probably anything in the world. You guys, you sort of own the world. Keen as mustard about poker is a really good one. How about you, Ben?
Well, mine just feels like a natural progression, just because I've kind of always been, here and there, part of the podcasts and stuff like that, and in the forums and stuff. So I just feel like, REC.POKER is a little bit of my home. It's kind of where I got my start in poker, and, found a group of people that have a similar interest. I've a little bit isolated, almost similar to what Troy was saying. I was kind of listening to him and kind of relating a little bit with, bringing this group of people to other people, and just finding people with similar interests. And I think I found that here at REC.POKER. So I feel like it was just a natural progression. And then, of course, with the Twitch stream, it opens up another avenue where I can try and bring some more people in, because I think there's a lot of recreational poker players who go to Twitch to try and, learn or see what other people are doing or who are unsure, especially when it comes to online poker. So just to try and give those people advice and give them a safe place to come and, share their thoughts and their experiences. Just really looking forward to doing that.
Yeah, you've in particular have really taken off trying to build a Twitch. I mean, you're doing it regularly, and tell us a little bit about that part of your journey into that kind of the Twitch space.
Yeah, well, it started back when they had the Bloat series back on Stars. I put up a forum post and I came on the podcast and we talked about it. It was 4 different tournaments, all well above what I would normally play, like not $10 daily turbos or anything like that. The 215 and a 530 and a 1K. So that was my first introduction to it, because I had already been on Twitch before, but I hadn't really just decided if I was going to stream myself. And then once I won those seats, I was like, I want to stream this. Like, this is crazy. Like, I'm so excited to play these tournaments, and it's a complete free roll, and people are going to want to see it. And and then that's kind of kicked it all off, and pretty much been going along ever since.
Great. And I guess for both of you, both Troy and Ben, you've mentioned this sense of community that you're hoping to bring, maybe a little bit more regionally and locally, but also something you think sort of exists in REC.POKER. What are some of your thoughts in terms of the role that, poker is a very zero-sum game. It's a very sort of solo practice of kind of like, when you're actually making decisions. In fact, there are rules about 1 player per hand and all that kind of stuff. But what do you see as the role of community in poker?
Well, I think it's just that it's a zero-sum game, and you need somebody there just to give you that boost, like, oh, let's go, like you hit that 1-0 or 2-0 or whatever, and just to or oh, that's too bad, like you got Jackson against Queens and whatever, this happens, and or somebody might give you advice that you may or may not agree with, but that's stuff that you have to always face along the way. But I don't know, I'll let Troy expand a little bit more on what his thoughts are.
Okay, so I think my way of where it sort of fits in is I just did a Google search on poker training, and there is 24.6 million hits. And good luck in anyone trying to navigate that on your own. And I believe that the REC.POKER community has enough aspects to it that it can create. If you want to go and do solver work, you can do that with Keith and Kim. If you want to go do a book study, which I personally love, I can do that with Rob. If I want to go do hand histories or off the table work, I can do that with again with Keith. There are so many options in here without having to commit a huge amount of money to what is a very daunting task if you're going to try to do this on your own. Without the support of others around you to try to help guide you through that process. If you want to go and do solver work, I don't know how you'd actually start doing that unless you got some basic training and help through that process that we can provide through the community that we have. So I think it's a great springboard to be able to understand and taste the entire poker world from in one spot.
Great. As always, I'll invite both the panelists and the audience to chime in with questions if you have any. Panelists, you can just unmute. Audience, if you got them in the chat, go ahead and ask them. But we do have one question in our chat already for Troy. Josh Campbell's asking, Troy, what sport did you play?
Okay, so back in the day, I did karate. So I represented Australia in karate. So again, very, very single soloist pursuit. Played golf as well, not competitively, but all my sports were always individual. But I suppose in saying that, I never did a sport, even though I was a soloist, where you were doing it as an individual. So there was always people who helped and coached along the way. So there's my link back to what we do. But yeah, so after 3 knee reconstructions, I have had enough, and I'm now too old.
If I had taken bets, I don't think karate would have been on the top list of the guesses here. But that's pretty cool. You say you represented Australia?
Yeah, I went overseas and fought in Europe, in Greece, and at an Oceania level and stuff like that. So,
Wow.
which is like our level down here, where it includes New Zealand and stuff. So again, I get fairly well committed and addicted to my pursuits, and that was one of them at a time that filled a gap, and now I've sort of moved on.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, what are some of your kind of goals, hopes, and dreams kind of going forward, or things that you kind of want to accomplish, both in your own poker game, but also as part of the Wrecking Crew?
So I suppose globally or a very big goal I've got here is to try to introduce REC.POKER to a lot of the poker leagues that are evident down here, and to try to develop a fan base and interactive part of the group, which are Australians, because ultimately we all travel. We all have. I could introduce you to 50 people who we play with regularly, and every single one of them wants to go to Vegas at some point. That's a big trip for us, and it's sort of a bucket list item, regardless of whether it's WSOP. Everyone has something that they want to go do, which then also blends into some other stuff that the group's doing with travel plans. Mm-hmm. So there are so many things that the group allows us to do to get involved with. Personally, my goal is, even though you shouldn't have a goal to try to win an individual event, I would like to win a mid-tier event. But over time, I have started working more and more on my mixed games. So I'm really enjoying some of the mixed games at the moment. So I'm off to play a series tomorrow, my time, for a PLO event. So really? Cool. I'm looking for more and more mixed games at the moment. I'm really enjoying that space. So that's my goals.
All right. And Ben?
Well, mine are far more rudimentary than that. I haven't even played a live MTT yet. So I've played 700 or 800 online tournaments, and I've played I don't know how many home games and free money, God knows what, right? And I've played live cash and home games with buddies and stuff like that, but never gotten the full tournament experience before. So that's a big personal goal of mine. I want to work towards that. And then of course, like building my Twitch community and kind of linking the two between REC.POKER and Twitch, right? And just kind of bringing the two together. I think they're really two really good spaces. Yeah.
And I heard you do have plans to play live, right? Wasn't I talking to you recently and hearing that you might be playing it somewhere?
We were talking about, well, yeah, I did play live in Halifax a couple months ago. I was going to play this past weekend, but I didn't bother. I said, nah, so I'll just wait. But I do occasionally pop down there. I'm not really a regular at the Halifax casino or anything like that. It's just occasionally. That's like the only place that I can really get like a real casino experience, I guess, that's local to me. And it's about an hour away. So, and everywhere else is, hours or flights and stuff like that. So. Right. And John, they don't offer tournaments. So yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
John, looks like you have a question.
Yeah. Well, first, just an interesting tidbit that I figure everyone should know something about my grandmother. And for her most violent swear word was she would say, "Oh, Halifax." That was, and since you mentioned Halifax, I thought I'd bring that up. But I was going to ask Troy, what mixed games appeal to you, and what's appealing to you about the mixed games?
So I'm enjoying a lot of the horse stuff at the moment. So in particular, horse. I have played some of the 8-game stuff, but in particular, what appeals to me is that there's just less variance in the game. And if you have a skill edge, the skill edge is more pronounced. The variance helps a lot of people, and in No Limit. So I'm finding when I play a little bit more of the mixed games, it's just a little bit more predictable. And so, but it's just harder to find games. So they've started down here playing more at some of the big series that give a plug, the Australian Poker Tour, playing some more mixed game series coming up at some things where I'll hopefully get one of the guys who are part of the Mixed Game Academy on the podcast coming up, and he can talk about what they're doing. But it's a really cool little part of the game. And to be honest, I think mixed game players have more fun.
I agree with that. Have you, I mean, given that Chris Wallace is also a mixed game player, have you been using him for coaching, or has he only been coaching you in No Limit?
He's only been coaching me in No Limit.
Okay.
Does he do?
I'm moving through his book at the moment, which is excellent on getting started in horse. So,
yeah, and I imagine he does. Does he do coaching in all those horse games? I would imagine he does.
Yep.
Right? Yeah. Interesting. He'd be a good one for that because he's a very good mixed game player. So Troy, have you been to Vegas? Is that sort of an ambition of yours as well? You mentioned sort of the people around you and so everyone.
Yeah. So I went there before I was married. So we're talking about 17 years ago. And had my first ever game poker. I played. I can't remember what the lowest stakes are at Excalibur, but I played a cash game at Excalibur as my first ever game of poker.
Love it.
And I remember reading a tiny little book, whatever, like it was about, I can't even say, about as big as a passport, on the way there in the car, trying to understand how to play No Limit because I'd seen it on TV, and then sat down. And I've actually still got the chip trays that I knocked off from there, so I brought them home as a souvenir. So that's where I first started. Now, the update is that it's highly likely I'll be making a trip to the US next year for a conference in Chicago and then finish up in Vegas because why not?
Yeah.
So
yeah. Awesome. Did you win your first time at Excalibur?
I couldn't tell you. I probably did. So winner's bias, right? What a great game.
Yeah.
I better go back and have another go at it.
Yeah. Usually that first game, somehow people first time they play poker win a lot. It's a weird phenomenon, I think. Ben, how about you? Do you have any? Now that we talked a little bit, you've played a little bit live, but is that something you're kind of building yourself up to?
Yeah, I mean, I would like to work my way up there. I think, Vegas is of course, as Troy said, it's a bucket list item. But I think East Coast is a lot more realistic. And we would like to do a road trip. My girlfriend, we've been together for 7 or 8 years now. So it'd be nice to do a road trip with her and do something special. So, and I think we could work it in where I could get in maybe some tournaments and stuff and, dip my toes in and get in some smaller buy-ins and stuff. Just to kind of get a feel for it before I do all right, let's go to the World Series in the summer.
Right. Right.
Instead of that being my first experience.
So, I mean, both of you are obviously very, very active in REC.POKER. You take part in some of the book studies and some of the training sessions. What are, outside of REC.POKER or even within REC.POKER, what are some of the areas that you're working on in your game right now? I mean, Troy, it sounds like you're maybe trying to expand into some mixed game strategies and things like that. But what are some of the things that you're most sort of interested in sort of working on right now on your own game?
At the moment in my No Limit game, I'm working on a lot of post-flop stuff. So, and in particular, multi-way spots. So there's a very common occurrence down here with a lot of the live tournaments. I suppose it's everywhere, although I'm biased because I can only see what I can personally see. Going to a multi-way spot is just more difficult. So, and you get a lot more multi-way spots than you do online. So that's something I'm trying to work on a lot more.
Yeah, that is in fact we'll be kind of working on this, but that'll be the theme of the month in January for REC.POKER. We're going to be talking a lot about playing multi-way because I think it is quite common. I think especially the lower stakes live, that you're just going to end up in a lot of multi-way spots and you're going to have to learn how to navigate it. So it's a good thing to focus on. Ben, how about you? What are some areas that you're really thinking about working
Well,
on?
three betting for me, which was I think that was the last month.
Mm-hmm,
So I'm gonna go backwards. So I've been trying to, find my three bets and look for good spots. And a big one for me is I just started with Gareth's Train Like the Pros program.
mm-hmm.
So I work a seasonal job. So I was kind of waiting till the end, we're getting into November, closer to December. So that's usually when I get laid off. So once I get laid off, which should be about a week from now, I'm going to really dive in and start doing some work with Gareth and stuff like that. I've just been waiting more to get some time freed up because the summers are just crazy and they go by so quick. So this is the time of year where I start kind of diving into that kind of thing. So I'm excited to work with Gareth, and I have a lot of history with him and stuff like that. So yeah, that'll be fun.
And Ben, I'm seeing in the chat here some recommendations for you, some East Coast recommendations saying New Hampshire, if you play Mohegan, is a recommendation.
Yeah.
And there's probably others I think that are out there. And this is actually one of the things REC.POKER wise. I know Kim has worked on this at times. There's a whole group about travel that kind of looks at various spots where you can go to. So if you're not familiar with that on the REC.POKER forum site, you can kind of go there for some advice, or has anybody played here or there, and have you ever done this kind of piece, or would anybody want to go to this series? And we're hoping that becomes a much more active part of the community, especially now that we're kind of like pushing ourselves a little outside of the pandemic. I know there's still some of that going on, but we're I think there's at least a push back into the like live spaces, and hopefully there's sort of more travel opportunities and things like that as well. So if you're looking for opportunities like that as well, I encourage you to get on that part of the forums on the site and start either seeking wisdom or giving wisdom.
Yeah, because there's a couple of steps I got to go through first to get there, and kind of stuff to think about and whatnot. So we'll definitely be posting in there too. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Once we get some stuff figured out, we'll start getting in there.
Good deal. Good deal. Well, I mean, so what else? What else can REC.POKER Nation kind of know about you two? I'm kind of a little bit curious about your lives a little bit outside of poker. Ben, you mentioned a seasonal job. Troy, we've learned you were a competitive karate master. But what else? What else? Do you do outside of the poker world that I think people might be interested in?
So, married, two kids, and I run a financial advice business in Australia. So I have 13 people total who work for me and work with me. And we're located so if you look at Sydney on the map, I'm about an hour and a half north of Sydney on the beach. Wow. So if I look out my window, I'm at the office at the moment, I can see the water. So that's where I live.
Sounds really
rough. It's a tough life, right? There's no snow where I live, so it is beachside living.
Wow. Well, I think we need a REC.POKER road trip to just go visit Troy's office maybe at some time.
So, and look, it's a little bit different, I suppose, where we work and play. So casinos aren't as prevalent here. So if you want to go to the Cas and play, it's an hour and a half down to the city. Or alternatively, you're playing in those other places like some of those card rooms that we were talking about, or our equivalent of a card room. So it's a little bit different, but my job, because I've been doing this for about 13 years, is it gives me the flexibility if I need to and want to go play one of those series. I'll go down to Sydney. I actually travelled earlier this year for my first ever travel away from home and go out of state and go play for a few days. So I'll be looking for opportunities with that, and work allows me to do a little bit of work when I'm away from the office to accommodate some of that stuff, which makes it quite achievable.
Great. And then Ben, I'll let you jump in before I pass it over to Kim. She looks like Kim has a question. But Ben, what's the one or two things outside of poker that you think we should know about you as a new member of the Wrecking Crew?
Yeah, I mean, I'm from Lunenburg, Nova Scotia, so I got the kind of the Lunenburg twang and the Nova Scotia accent and stuff like that. So they say, or whatever. But I don't know. Try and think of what I can say here. I mean, not much. I mean, I do landscaping through the summer right now. Thinking about applying for the military possibly over the winter. So I'm also working at that. Yeah, I have a little dog named Marty. He's 5 years old now. I shouldn't say he's little. So, but yeah, he's our emotes in the stream. So yeah.
Awesome. Kim?
I had a question for Troy. Have you ever been to the Aussie Millions, and are they still holding the Aussie Millions?
So short answer is no, I haven't been there. That's played in Melbourne. So I'm in Sydney. So, and Crown Casino at the moment is not running tournaments.
Is
The
that because of
casinos, I don't know
COVID?
if I should be saying this on here because we'll never get them as a sponsor, but both casinos in Australia have got a whole lot of problems at the moment. So there's legislation that has come down on all the casinos very hard in Australia. So Star has been running a WSOP circuit at the moment, but it's I haven't played the Aussie Millions. My highest buy-in live or at all has been for $750. So I haven't played anything above that. The Aussie Millions it used to go right up to a 10K buy-in, I think.
Yeah.
Right. And I think they used to run a lot of satellites and stuff for it. But I was always on a lot of people's bucket list as one of the places to go play. World Series of Poker main event, the Aussie Millions, try to satellite in, that kind of thing. So does it look like it's done for now? Is it not, or do you not have that?
I couldn't tell you, to be honest. I'm not in that circle enough, but I could suggest if you're looking at trying to make a poker holiday down here, that you could play the Australian Poker Tour series over a 5 or 6 day event, half an hour outside the middle of Sydney, and then be able to go and do a holiday out the back of it. So if we're all recreational, that's what I'd be aiming at. And so there's plenty of tournaments under $700 as a buy-in, and a lot of them at $200. So you can have a ball playing that, and they're good run events. Some of the other events that we'll hopefully have a chat to some people that they have. There's a lot of little mini series that play, but at the moment they're playing a WSOP circuit event on the Gold Coast. Again, there's a whole bunch of little stuff that you could play and back a holiday into it. I could become a travel agent for Australia if the way we're going.
I love it though. I mean, it's been. I agree, Kim. That's been on my list too. Like, it's such a long flight, but I've always heard such amazing things, and I've always wanted to go to Australia. But so it sounds like there's maybe the Aussie Millions isn't there, but there's sort of a rich tapestry of other opportunities that maybe might be even sort of better to dip your toe into for a recreational player anyway. So that sounds great. That sounds great. Well, I think one of the things that you'll, as sort of new Wrecking Crew members, you'll be sort of joining us off and on the podcast. You'll be starting to hear these voices a little bit more regularly. But as we kind of, and I'd invite the audience too, if there's any other kind of last questions we missed. But one of the things that we always kind of like to wrap these interviews up with a little bit is a question around where you think poker can improve. Like, what is something that you've experienced either in the online space, in the live space, wherever it might be? What is something, if you could sort of wave a magic wand or just start to work towards something, what's the one thing you wish that we could sort of help the game of poker sort of push forward or improve?
Do you want to go first, Ben, or would you like me to do so?
Yeah, sure. I'll jump in. I think we need to embrace people that are first timers and really don't even know where to start. And like people like me who really didn't know, okay, I got $100. What do I play?
Right.
So yeah, I mean, that to me is like that I want to see improve because, it's hard for somebody like that. So, and I think that's the big benefit of a place like REC.POKER is it offers a space where people like that can come and kind of share their thoughts and stuff like that. But I think we as poker players need to be inviting of these people and try and make them better, because if they get better, then they can go and say, look, they can say to their buddy, look, I turned this $100 into $1,000, and they'll be like, how'd you do that? Oh, I was playing poker, and I'm going to go play live now. And there's just so many exciting things that can come from that. So yeah, that's just kind of where I'm at with it.
Yeah,
so.
I'm always baffled by the players who berate or try to make a negative experience for people who maybe aren't as comfortable at the table, or that's their first time there or whatever. It's kind of baffling to me. It's like, what is going on?
And the home games are such a good spot to start. Like that was where I started, and Jim if Jim was here, he'd be saying, well, I remember the first REC.POKER home game where it was Ben and Chad and we were the only Canadians. And, so I think that alone, just having that, a free place where you can go and practice some things and kind of have fun at the same time is awesome. So, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. How about you, Troy?
Off the back of that, I think as a poker community, we have to be more welcoming of new players. I sat at a table in a free event the other night. I have a bit of a prop bet with some mates of mine about winning a free roll at the moment. And I'm 3 rips in and I haven't won it. So anyway, I sat at a table and the guy got berated because he said I call and raise. He said, no, you can't do it. And I had to stop the table and said, it's the guy's first night. We all know what his intention was. The bet stands. And after a bit of booing and hissing, because people don't want to put them in awkward spots and they don't want to come back. So that as one point. And the next point, I think we have to have a path, which REC.POKER plays an important role in, of people who have been playing for a little while. Let's call that 6 months, let's call that 12 months, where they start to understand that there is a depth to this game that is unfathomable, that they cannot navigate themselves. And the REC.POKER community is there to help them with it, because you can, in all intents, be a player that wants to play at a certain level forever, and good luck to you, and not worry about all the other stuff that comes with it. But if you want to actually start to get involved and understand, or want to investigate the theory of the game, which I love, to be honest, I love the theory of the game. And if there's no way to cross that bridge, it's very difficult for players. Then they get lost, they lose interest. There's nothing else that the game offers them. And just trading money with people at an event, or going along and losing every night, like I seem to, very, very quickly loses its shine. So I just think that as a community, giving people the path to actually understand that there is so much more to this game, that if you want to unpack it as there, is what we as a community need to try to do.
I love that. I mean, those are both really consistent sort of things from both of you, and from opposite sides of the world, and even opposites sort of, as we've heard, sort of opposite sort of beginnings and sort of even goals and objectives, but still that sort of common theme of making the game as welcoming as we can to new players, and then making the game sort of accessible for people who are starting to realize how intense it is and how just big and massive and the endeavor is to try to improve it. This game is. I love that a lot.
Look, it's supposed to be a fun game, right?
Right.
If you don't have fun, what's the point of playing? If you think you're going to make to be honest, if anyone thinks they're going to make a living out of this game as a rec player, I have the first set of news that they're going to learn as part of their learning process. It is impossible to do so. And look, prove me wrong, but if you're not doing this game because you enjoy it and love it as the first step, I think you have your priorities set wrong.
Right.
And communities like there's been built around REC.POKER to help develop the love of the game. And yes, you develop in your ability to play, and everything increases because your love of it continues to be developed. I think that's the secret to actually developing the entire poker community.
Yep. Yeah, no, I mean, it is, you might have a nice score or two, but it is not a place where you're going to probably make a living. It's a little supplementary income if even if you're a winning player. It's not something you're just gonna like.
And I kind of think everybody has to make that journey, because I certainly did. You make that first big score and you think you're, king king of the hill, or whatever you want to say, other adjectives.
I think
and then reality slowly sets in.
John or Rob will know this. Is it Tommy Angelo that says you're never running as good as you think or as bad as you think? Is that a Tommy Angeloism?
I think so.
Yeah.
The basic idea: you're never as good as you think you are, and you're never as bad as you think you are.
Yeah. And I think that's definitely true in poker, because the variance sort of like comes at you, in a lot of different ways, and it changes the way you think of yourself.
And most players, not even rec players, most players think they're better than they actually are.
Right.
100%.
Yeah, no, that is a danger in this game, especially if you find that, you go to the Excalibur and you're like, your first time ever playing poker, and you double up your money. You're like, this is it, man. I'm
solved it.
Yeah, here we go. All right, well, that's awesome. Any final kind of thoughts before we turn our attention? I know we've got some home games to announce, but any final thoughts, Troy and Ben? Welcome to both of you. I think we're really excited to have you on board.
Well, me personally, I'm really looking forward to trying to develop the Australian community down here with it. So, all things being equal, I can tell people to expect some more accents on this podcast. So I am hoping to have more people give some insight into how games are played down here, because it's going to be quite interesting. Are games actually played different regionally? I think I've had a conversation here with people before live where the game is played very strategically in the States, but innately Australians have more gamble in them. So I think we'll find that there might be a very different take on some of these hands and the strategy with it, because we may encounter a very different breed of game down here. And I think as we unpack this over the next 12 months, I just think some of these things are going to be very interesting to find out. I can't wait.
I'm keen as mustard to hear that, to catch up on that, because I really am interested in how different parts of the world play this game, especially as we see more of that player pool sometimes joining together online. It's like really interesting to see those things come together. Ben, any kind of final parting words on your side before I turn this over to John?
I'll take the selfish angle on it, since Troy did the humble thing. But I want to work on myself just as a poker player and as a person, and have a group to share that journey with. And I think this is really the best place for me to do it. And I appreciate the welcome in. And yeah, I'm excited to, like Troy says, throw in a little Lunenburg County in there.
That's awesome. Yeah, I know. I think the more accents, the better. It'll be great to get this, to hear some other perspectives from around the world as we kind of keep growing this REC.POKER thing as it goes. But thanks, Troy and Ben. We're really excited to have you. And with that, I think I'm going to turn this over to John. We're going to talk through some of the home games. But while we're doing that, we are going to still, even though Jim's not here, we are going to still do the giveaway this month. It'll be a free month of REC.POKER. And if you've got that, if you already are a premium member at REC.POKER, then you can apply that towards some of the premium pieces that like coaching and that kind of thing.
I just want to know where we're getting the dice.
I have a dice. I have a dice.
Oh my goodness!
I have a nerdy dice. I don't have as many as Jim, but I've got a 10-sider. So I think probably I'd put my bets on 5 rather than 1 this time, but we'll see. So get your right food bank in the chat if you're ready for that, and then I'll turn it over to John while we're waiting for people to do that.
All right. Well, we did have some home games yet again this week. Apple of my eye, Harold Berry got his first nightly victory for the year. Uncle Tom's Cabin got his or her 5th nightly victory for the year. Gibber 3, Jim Gibson got his 3rd nightly victory. John Lutzy. John Lutzy got his second nightly victory. Chip and Flip Rec, Luke O'Driscoll got his second nightly victory. And Michael Babker got his 9th nightly for the year.
This is going far too smoothly for you. You're just rattling it off. I feel without Jim here, you're not getting interrupted sufficiently.
Well, I think you just solved that problem. So then we have Killy 19341 Rich won his first daily mixed victory for the year. And for those of you who also play in Papes, he's one of the old-time regulars from Papes. So I'm glad to see him over here in REC.POKER as well. On the international events, Now You Said It, Joe won his first international event for the year, and Hawsey 8 got his first international event for the year. And then Rick the Good Dog won the LPP event, so he can contact Jim at REC.POKER for his free month at Learn Pro Poker.
All right. That was almost record time, John. I feel like you're getting really good at getting through these all of a sudden.
Just tries to get through it quick so he doesn't get interrupted.
So he doesn't, I know. I'm noticing that this guy. We're gonna have to be quicker on the interruption draw here.
Exactly.
All right, I've got the dice in here. I think we've given people enough time to enter it in. I'm gonna start at Rob Adsom with a 1, down to Stewie. So that gives us this number, and I'm rolling. It's a 7, which goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3. That means that Joe Koulis, congratulations. You are our winner this month, and you can contact Jim at REC.POKER for your free premium month or your credit towards some of the things in the REC.POKER store.
I think you should do the dice rolls from now on, Chris, because I don't think we've ever had a 7 before. I know there's been a lot of 1s. In case anybody missed that, there was a great YouTube video highlighting all of our 1s. So I think from now on, we need to give you that duty, Chris. As long you're producing every week, I think you also need to do the dice roll every week.
Maybe. I don't have as many fancy dice. He's gonna have to ship me all his fancy dice. I've got a 6-sider and a 10-sider. That's it. So, but it's still kind of fancy. So
if you can figure out how to do a random number generator and have it show up at the bottom of your screen, that might even be better.
That's probably even the best way to do this, isn't it?
Yeah, we need to save the controversy. I might have to do a big long stream like Joey Ingram's stream on the controversy that's going on.
Oh yeah, definitely. Definitely.
I'll get all kinds of viewership.
No, and for those of you maybe just tuning in and haven't seen it, go check out the REC.POKER YouTube channel. Eric Binkley put together a really wonderful collection of all the times that Jim has rolled a 1, and it is a lot because it always seemed like a lot, and now we have video evidence to prove it. It's definitely a lot. But speaking of Jim Reed, wishing him well, and also this job is harder than it looks, so he does a great job. So I appreciate all the work that he puts in each and every week to pull together this podcast. We're in really great hands most of the time.
Speaking of harder than it looks, so last week, those of you may remember that Chris was unable to join. And of course, I made a few mistakes trying to produce the podcast in place of Chris. So he's already doing something that's harder than it looks. In addition to doing something else harder than it looks all at the same time and making it look easy.
Well, we're not done yet. So let's but with that, I just want to thank everyone for joining us. Thank you for listening. Thanks, Running Aces Hotel, Racetrack, and Casino. And thank you to Mark Prashant at WebSign Amp. Thanks Ben and Troy for being such great guests. Welcome to the Wrecking Crew. Rob, Keith, John, Kim, thank you so much. Thank you to Jim. We will see you next week.